What is up, guys and girls? Hurricane Liz here, back with Amazon Graveyard Part 2. Now, I know a lot of you have been blowing up my actual message feed below asking for this video, so you ask and you shall receive. So let's talk about what Amazon Graveyard Part 2 is all about. Now remember, in Graveyard Part 1, we talked about books that are stuck in limbo. And remember, there is a key difference between books that are not ranked and books that are not indexed. Pretend that the books that are not indexed are as if they're The Walking Dead, straight out of the graveyard, decapitated, delimbed, and everything. All they are is a stump, just sitting there, not able to move, not able to do anything, not even able to grunt or eat brains. Obviously, they're just stuck in limbo, whereas the actual books that aren't ranked are just stuck in the graveyard. They're just there, they can come out, they're just stuck there, they're moving around, and they're still able to rank, but you just can't see them. So it's a huge key difference. You never want to be de-indexed, but if you're not ranked, there are solutions to your problems, and that's what we're going to cover in this video. So I'm super psyched up about this, and this actual video series is turning into many videos. So I do have a part 3 coming up that I know of, and there is a possibility of a part 4. It just depends on what you guys ask for. So remember, as always, subscribe to this channel if you enjoy this actual content. But without further ado, let's jump into my screen share and show you what we have to consider before determining whether or not we want out of this graveyard. So let's do this. All right, so we're here on my screen share, and the biggest number one thing that we have to ask ourselves before we proceed forward is, do we even want this book out of the graveyard? And if so, why exactly? So we really have to go back and analyze how much sales it was actually making. Now, were those sales enough to actually warrant us to take further action to try and re-rank this book? And the reason that I ask that is a lot of times we see a book and it never does well, or it does what we perceive to be doing well, and then we also want to re-rank it, and yet there's really no easy solution. But I will talk about a couple ones that you can actually use. So let's first go there. So the questions that we have to ask ourselves is, did it really sell well? How many sales did it have? How many reviews does it currently have? And at the time that it was selling really well, was it for any one of the following reasons? The first reason was this a brand new book within the first 90 days? And all of a sudden we just noticed we shot out of the gate and we were selling exceptionally well. And then all of a sudden things plummeted. And the second thing that we want to ask ourselves, when we ran ads, how long did we run the ads for? And if so, what was our daily budget? And at any point in time, when we saw the book selling well on its own organically, did we decide to cut off the ads completely? So that's the things that we have to figure out. Now, with that being said, what we should also factor in is the cost of the book, and if we outsourced it or if we did it ourselves, because the possibility is that we just stumbled upon a really good niche, and the reason that we did exceptionally well was because the book is brand new. And now let me explain to you something that happens with brand new products that are put onto Amazon. Amazon puts them into something called a honeymoon period. So I want you to compare this to when you either first got married, or when you first got with the girlfriend or boyfriend you have, or hey, if you're single and you never done that, just think about it the next time you actually are in this situation. But how were things? Were they not like extremely romantic, extremely hot and heavy, and things all seem great? And then when you get past that point of the honeymoon period, all of a sudden things take a nosedive, or at least somewhat take a nosedive. And in a lot of instances, a lot of people do not survive. And now I'm not talking about this based on personal experience, but I kind of am. So let's just say that this honeymoon period is when things are hot and heavy. But after those first 90 days, you start to see the real thing. So no longer are your significant other doing nice things for you. They're starting to watch a lot of TV. They're starting to want to go and hang out with their friends and shit like that. You know, it's the same old stuff when people get married. So the reality is the same with books. When your book first comes out, it's hot and heavy with Amazon. Amazon expects it to sell well, but as soon as it doesn't, Amazon totally turns its nose to it and decides no more honeydews for your ass. And that's what basically happens. So let's think about this. Again, going back to the book, is it worth it to actually go through all this trouble to re-rank that book? Or could we actually get a brand new book with very similar everything, similar keywords, similar path if we did PPC, and similar ranking methods and or title, subject, keywords, all that, similar cover, similar everything. So it's almost like a copycat clone. So consider that before you move forward. Now, once you decide to move forward with this book, the next step is to figure out where you stand right now. And by that, I mean, where is your ranking? Again, you should have already figured out whether or not it's an indexing problem and or a ranking problem, but I can say this, 9 times out of 10, it is a 100% ranking problem. The de-indexing hardly ever happens unless you actually did something black hat. And there's very few people that actually know those techniques, so not a lot lot of people will do them. Now let's go ahead and take a look at where a current book that I have right now is at. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at Helium-10. And this is Helium-10. We're going to use something called Cerebro, which you guys are probably familiar with, but Cerebro pretty much just takes a look at your current keywords and what you're ranked for. So I'm going to go ahead and enter the ASIN and then hit get keywords, and I'm going to go ahead and do a new search because I don't want it to load any previous history that I've already done so far. And now what you're going to notice is Helium-10 is going to go out there and it's going to tell me what it thinks my book is about. Now keep in mind, this is a book I did. This is one of my very first books that was total trash. I put this together in under 30 minutes, and yet I still sold extremely well as the fact that I did PPC that helped it a bunch. But we'll see right here what the word frequency is, as well as we're going to see down here what the book actually currently ranks for. Now, one thing you're going to notice is that it still has a lot of organic rank for some pretty interesting words, including Sudoku books for adults, large print, which was one of the original words that I attempted to go for and land on page 1. As you can see right here, I'm still on page 1 at number 10. And this book still makes about 3 to 4 sales a month. And while that's not by any means good, that still is about $10 in profit a month just passively for me not doing a single damn thing. So imagine if I had a good cluster of books that did the same thing. Well, then now we're talking about some passive income, at least enough to pay my cell phone bill, right? So let's take a look at what else is going on here. So I see that I'm still ranking pretty well. All in all, everything looks really good. Now, the other thing that I noticed about this book is it has 3 reviews. So while that's not a lot, that certainly is enough to give me extra social proof. Now, one of the original problems that I had with this book is number one, the price point, because it's very high. It's a gigantic book. And the second thing was it had 0 reviews. When a product has no reviews and you do run PPC, the likelihood that people buy or convert for the product are quite low versus if you actually have some social proof and some reviews. The likelihood that you sell in that instance with reviews is a lot higher. So in this particular instance, I now have 3 reviews and I have some organic ranks. So if my book was at an actual decent price, and I'm talking about below $10.95, then it certainly would be a good idea to actually run PPC again and try to re-rank this book, although it's already ranking pretty well. So this would be a perfect example of a book to run with and try to re-rank, other than the price, right? Obviously the price and the fact that I'm not proud of the cover, I designed that on my own. And as you can tell, I'm not that great of a graphic artist. Good thing I didn't have to draw anything physically on there because then we'd be in some deep, deep shit. Okay, so now I'm gonna show you an example of a book that I probably would not try and re-rank. And I'll explain some of the logic and thought processes behind this so you can kind of understand why I would have done the other one, but I won't do this one. However, with the other one, the price was just too high. So with this particular book, we can see that this is a book about dragons. And so there's 2 really huge reasons why I wouldn't rerun this. Now let's talk about the book in general. The book was created again by an artist, and I did this and reviewed this in a Fiverr book who was horrible at covers. In fact, I had to do the finishing touches on the covers, and as you guys already figured out, I'm not the best graphic artist in the world, so you can imagine that that was pretty much a big disaster. Now let's talk about the other factor with this book. It does have 2 reviews, which means if I ran ads on it, it would provide more social proof, but I can tell you that the first time around when I ran ads, it was a total disaster in terms of CTR or click-through rate, meaning not a lot of people were clicking through on the cover, and it means that the cover was total trash. And again, that's because the lazy-ass designer and myself collaborated in creating that cover, and now he didn't know it was a collaboration, but it turned out to be a huge collaboration that was a disaster. So now, this other factor that we can see here is our rank really here completely sucks, like 37, 46, 62, compared to the other book, which is ranking for a lot of keywords on page 1 and page 2. This one is nowhere, right? Rank 200, rank 227. Now, the final factor that affects my decision not to re-rank this is I already told you the history. I told you the PPC history. I told you the organic rank. This too sells a couple books an actual month, but here's the sad part. Take a look at the actual words that we rank for at all. Dragon Master 17, Rainbow Magic Fairy, Books Special Edition, Robert Munch, Give a Dragon a Taco. Now, I can't imagine how many people search for these things a month, but it's very little. And I pretty much doubt that these numbers are right. About 416 for Robert Munch and nothing for Give a Dragon a Taco, but I am number 62. So based on all those factors, this book does not warrant going any further with spending money and or time on re-ranking the actual book. Now, the other one did if it was under $9.95, and it's not. So now you at least see 2 examples from my actual repertoire of books, which shows you whether or not you decide to proceed forward. Okay, so let's talk about what ways we get our books out of the actual graveyard if they're already in there. Now, you should have already decided if your book is worthy of your time, energy, effort, and money. And if it is, you'll try the very first actual tactic, which is nothing more than doing what's called a refresh at FBA. Now, refresh is nothing more than changing out some things in the actual backend. I'm talking about subtitle as well as backend keywords and bullets. Changing those out for keywords that are possibly not as highly competitive as you actually have loaded in there. You see, one of the biggest mistakes with KDP as well as FBA is most people that are brand new out of the gate want to try and rank for that most highly competitive term. And the reality is it's going to take a lot of time, energy, and effort as well as money to get ranked for those keyword terms. So instead, on this pass, you will try and target mid to low level long tail keywords to see if you can actually even show up in the algorithm for those keywords. So all you'll basically do is either change your subtitle and or your backend keywords or your bullets to include these actual words in there, and then you'll go ahead and save that on the back end. Amazon will republish it and it'll be a fresh actual copy of your book. And guess what? A lot of times that does, and you'll see yourself pop for some of these keywords, which will drive sales. Now that is the free method, and it also does work quite effectively, but it is free and it's not as effective as the paid method. Okay, so the second promotion method is ads. And we're specifically talking about PPC, pay-per-click, or sponsored products. So let's talk about a couple things that are different now this second time around. The first should be you should absolutely have more reviews. Now, if you don't, then I would proceed with caution, because chances are if you didn't do well the first time, you will definitely not do well the second time. So again, make sure you have reviews. And if you don't, I would actually literally try and go out there and try to get more reviews before I move forward. Now, the second thing that you want to do is if you have recent data, meaning less than 30 days ago, you can actually go into KDP and request that data, because now you have a starting point and you do have some data on words that you either converted to sales and or you at least converted to clicks. So let me show you how to actually navigate and get that data if you have it available. All you'll do is you click on this little hamburger and then you'll click on reports, and it's going to take you straight to the report section. And now there's a cool little trick that you can do here, but first you want to click on create report. And then right here, you'll want to select sponsored products, and the actual type of report that we care about is the search term report. Now we want a summary, and you can even choose to have it daily, or you can choose a report period based on however long you want. Now I have 30 days selected, but it might be wiser to do at least 7 days. And the next thing you'll want to do is name this. So name it whatever you'd like to name, and then add your email address, and then let it know how you want to receive this. I just pick recurring so that I constantly get that every so many days. And the other thing that I do to understand is just name it whatever you want, because pretty much all it does is it groups all your actual campaigns together so you see all the data. Now, you can open up that report and filter it. And if you guys need help with that, post below in the comments and let me know that, and I'll show you how I quickly and do it the Excel way for dummies. Now, keep in mind, I'm not an Excel expert, and I certainly am not even good at teaching it, but I will show you guys the process that I've been able to use to effectively run my campaigns. And again, I've made over $1 million selling just with PPC alone. So all you'll do after that is click run report, and then pretty much after that, it's going to show you right here all the reports that you have that are pending. And now again, you'll have access to that data. Now, this data is usually only available for the past 30 days. So if you don't have that available to you, you do have to start from scratch. Now, starting from scratch requires you to gather a huge list of actual keywords and then start from that point. If you do need help with running the actual ads itself, I am uploading a video in the next couple days. It's going to show you my brand new Amazon ads part for KDP. This is some actual testing that I've been doing based on the recommendations from some pretty high level dudes in the actual group that have given me lots of great tips. I've used those. They've been working extremely effectively. So I'm going to share it with all you guys, as well as share a couple of the tests that I've actually been running. And then I will do a KDP graveyard number 3 that shows you the exact actual formula to throw into your actual sponsored ads. So that was method 2. Now, the third and final method is a very complicated method that involves Facebook ads as well as a ManyChat funnel and giveaways, and it requires a lot of time, money, and brains to be able to put the whole thing together. Now, I do only recommend this to people that have a book that they are extremely passionate about and that they're willing to put a huge advertising budget into, because it can get a little tricky, and there are very few people doing this. It's extremely effective. It will certainly get your book ranked for page 1, and the rest is up to you if it has a good, solid design. Now, if you do want me to go over that actual process. It's going to be in depth, and it's probably going to be a multi-series video series. So I do recommend you guys let me know in the comments below, and I will show you how a funnel looks like with one of those instances. But it does involve you having to get people into your ManyChat funnel that are interested in buying your book in exchange for a rebate. So again, I will go more into detail if you guys ask for that. But other than that, hopefully this helped you out and made you realize all the possibilities when ranking KDP books. And again, I am going to hit this with video number 3, which will be coming up shortly to you. Other than that, questions or comments, post below. I always personally answer them, and I'll see you guys in the next video.